Why don't you create a religion?
Alrighty. Well, now, I understand the spirit of the question. And with some of the new consciousness that I have been involved in, it would be so much easier to create a religion, because it just comes off that way. It would like, hey, look at this, let's just go down this kind of belief system, let me paint a picture of something and everybody get it wrong, but they'd feel good about it, it would be interesting and stuff like that. But why won't I do that? And I won't do that, and I have never done that. And there's a reason for that. It's useless, for one reason. It's a disservice to humans. Like I say, religion is the failure to be directly conscious. You see? Because a religion, a belief system, is by definition not being directly conscious. It's based on faith, it's based on hearsay, it's based on beliefs. See, that kind of takes you out of the picture as far as responsibility goes. The only responsibility you have in that case is to believe something, to show up at church or synagogue or wherever, and go through some motions and, feel good about, I have something that gives purpose to my life. All right. Hey, if it gives purpose to your life, fine. When I was a teenager, I did not like church. My parents would drag me to church and put me in a suit and tie when I was a child, and drag me to the Episcopal Church, where we had to sit in these pews, and then you pull down this thingamajigger in the front where you kneel on it, And I was a kid. So when I kneeled on the thing, I had to kind of sit up straight in order to keep my head above the pew in front. And then over time, my back would hurt a lot. It was uncomfortable. Plus, a lot of this was in Singapore. This is not cold. I don't need a wool suit. Anyway, and it hurt. In any case, this is irrelevant. I'm just bitching about my childhood. Sorry. I would stick my ass out on the bench behind me, trying to get some relief from my back. Any case, we go through these motions and sing songs, and the preacher would preach and blah blah blah. And even as a child, and I'm talking about say 8, 9, 10, whatever, that kind of age, in this scenario, I didn't believe it. Okay, it was kind of obviously just motions and beliefs people were going through that there was no reason to consider were true. God, whether God was real or not, is kind of irrelevant to religion. Really. It's not like, oh, you don't believe in God? I could believe in God. I don't believe in religion. That's different. I'm not saying I do or don't believe in God. That's a different matter. I'm just saying it's irrelevant. You following me here? See? So in any case, I asked my father one day when I was a teenager, I said, Dad, what, because I stopped going to church. At some point I asserted, myself, and they went with it. And so I stopped going to church. And I said, Dad, what, because he'd go to church on Sunday. And I'd say, Dad, why do you go to church? And what's the point? So I was kind of expecting a theological argument. And he said, because I feel better when I do. I said, oh, okay. It's like, can't argue with that. It's like, okay, you feel better when you do. Oh, okay, good. Gives you something in your life you feel good about. All right. But now, to me, feeling good is not the point of pursuing the truth. So, back to why I don't create a religion. I was always not going to do that. When I was much younger than I am today, because that's not hard to be much younger than I am today. Let's see, how old was I? How old was I? Okay, I was in my late 30s, probably. Late 30s. Yeah, probably late 30s. Because I remember where I was. I was in my loft in a house overlooking the Bay Area. In any case, I was doing a lot of work back then. I had, empowerment, that organization, and Cheng Hsin, and a lot of consciousness workshops and stuff. And I loved the work. And I thought, kind of the question came up, could I be more successful, right? I mean, I was doing okay, I was making a living. But, I realized I could be very successful. But no, and I looked at it and said, but in order to do so, I have to cater to what people want and think. See, could I do that? Yes. I was capable of doing it. I'm not capable like my heart or my integrity is capable of that. No, I'm just saying I have the ability to do it if I wanted to do it. I could fool people. Okay? I realized then I have the capacity to convince people of stuff. I have the capacity, to communicate in such a way that I enroll people in, the communication. And I could sell them a bill of goods. I could sell them, basically a religion, if you like, belief system that they would like, they would eat up, and I would become very famous and make a lot of money. And I rejected it. Just flat out, right? Just flat out rejected it. No, I will not do that. I cannot do that. That would be selling out. Not selling, that's a different matter, okay? Some of you don't seem to understand that, but in any case, that'd be selling out. That would be violating my integrity, be violating the truth. It would not be what's true. And my commitment is to what's true. Myself be damned. Okay? Yourself be damned. Okay? I don't care about us. I care about what's true. All right? So that was a commitment way back. And since I was involved in consciousness work, what I call consciousness work, which can be quite misunderstood, I would not do that. I would not create and will not create a belief system. Now, I have seen people, unfortunately, who've had enlightenment experiences. They've had, clear enlightenment experiences. They did good work for a while anyway. And then it degraded into a religion, basically. And as I saw that happening over the years, I did not approve. I said, this is wrong. Don't go down that road. But they went down that road anyway. They were famous. They were rich. So maybe that's what it's about. I don't know. But they started allowing the people that studied with them to become followers, not participants, not students. They didn't empower them to truly grasp. Not really. That was kind of in the works, but, it's kind of like if you go to church, and I'm not equating these two, but if you go to church, you'd say, well, be one with God, or, like know God, or something like that. But they don't do anything to help you do that, because they really don't know how to do that, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they're not one with God. They pretend to be closer to God, but not one with God. That's a bit much. I mean, even the vicar of Christ, vicar of Christ, the Pope, it's not one with God. Come on, he'd tell you. At least this Pope, because he tends to be honest. Okay, apparently, they're not all honest. So he's not one with God, but close to God. Because, somehow God's working through him or something like that. See, but you're not charged to do that. And if you did that, they'd probably say blasphemy. It's like, what? You can't do that, even though, in the past, they herald some saints here and there who have thought to have done such a thing in some way. In any case, and then I watched these, so back to my other, story, I watched these, it's actually well-meaning and useful communications degrade into a religion, And the one I'm thinking about now is they based on kind of the Hindi thing, the Indian thing, the Indian hoopla, the trappings of kind of Indian things. Some people go down the Japanese or Zen trappings, and some people go down, other trappings, who may be American Indian trappings, who knows, But it doesn't matter. A religion is a religion. A religion is a waste of time. Sorry. I know. Some of you are going to be real upset by that because you have a goddamn religion that you love, and if it makes you feel good, okay, and you like it, fine. Come on, there's worse things to like, right? It's okay. All right, relax. It's just not true. I'm sorry. And it's not true. But you have to believe it's true. Otherwise it loses its power, doesn't it? It doesn't have much power if you don't think it's true. I mean, people fucking die and think they're going to heaven. Now that's commitment. Right? I'm going to heaven. Yeah, no. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be surprised because they're not going to be. All right? It's not like you're going to pop up and go, oh, fuck, this ain't heaven. What, is this hell? No, it's nothing. It's nothing. They're dead. Anyway. So it's all right, if it comforts them to think they're going to heaven, screw it. The last minutes of their life, say yes, pat them on the head and say, okay, you're going to heaven. You'll be able to meet mom when you're there. Or whatever, See, people are so thoroughly stuck in this social context that is created by humans, you see? And we don't know it's created by humans. And all this whole heaven shit, okay, and all that, relationship is just an extension of the social context that we've invented for ourselves and live as if it's true and important. You follow this? Of course not. You'd probably take some workshops to get this. But in any case, let me see if I can dumb it down. So let's see. We've got, let's see. Oh, here we go. How about this? You have life, right? What is life? Life is, I experience being alive. I'm me. Ah. Okie dokie. Good for you. You're special and unique, right? Yeah, and you must be. You're the most important thing in the universe because, you're you. All right. And every religion and every belief system and every form of self-help and blah, blah, blah is all oriented around, guess who? You. Do you like that dramatic pause there? In any case, it's all about you. It's always about you. Every one of them. Just take a look. Just take a look. In the end, it's about you, getting you enlightened, getting you free, getting you better, getting you effective, getting you laid, whatever it's about. But it's always about you. You follow? Wow. You say, but Ralston, what else is it going to be about? This is the only thing that's important. I know. To you. You getting the drift here? See? But Ralston, you're starting to talk about this is disturbing me. You seem to be going down a really weird road here. You're starting to exclude me. What? I'm not going to follow your religion anymore. I understand. Okay? This is why I am not so popular and rich. All right? One reason. Because like I said, my commitment is to what's true, not to you, not to me. See, but now, okay, back to our issue about a social context. You know, that religion and social context seem to have a lot in common. And you know why? Well, your life, back to your life, right? You live life, and you have all these thoughts and emotions, right? And it's very important, and you relate to people, and you have relationships, and you have a job, and you do things all, day long, and life stuff, right? And you have a life, maybe career you're building, and you're trying to accomplish something, and of course, you want to fix yourself and become better, okay? You want to be a better human being, right? Because you're all good people, so you want to be a better human being, so you want to, fix yourself and get over that nasty feeling like something's missing in life. Yeah? You know that nasty feeling, right? It's always in the background there. Something's a little missing in life, or, that somehow, you're not all that you should be, or you're broken, or some such thing like that. And so some of your life is devoted to trying to fix that, right? Trying to fix that. Okay, so that's all life, right? Now, none of that exists in any other place but a social context. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, take a look. Your thinking, your feeling, what's important to you, all of that. You say, yeah, but Ralston, why do you keep calling my name? Anyway, huh? We're on a personal basis here. You say, Ralston, you've got, biology, right? I eat and sleep and breathe. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I'll give you that. Okay. You got me there. But now, first of all, when you're living your life, how much do you concentrate on your breathing? Almost never. Compared to how much you breathe pretty much like every second of the day for the most part, right? And every once in a while you do a yoga class or something, and you concentrate on your breathing. Breathe deeply. Okay. Now meditate, inhale, exhale. Every once in a while you concentrate on that, or for whatever reason, you're out of breath and you're huffing and puffing and you notice that. Or whatever. Most of the time, it fades into the background because that's just a physiological aspect of your living as a biological organism, right? But that's not where you live your life. See, that's of very little importance to you unless you can't breathe. Okay? See, if anything happens, like, you can't breathe, your heart stops, stuff like that, that becomes critical, right? That's big important because, you're going to die. Okay? So that, supersedes everything else, right? But if that stuff's not happening in the moment, and it doesn't happen in the moment, very, very many moments. I mean, if that happens, it's only one moment, okay? It's a very short period of time, and then you die. But, or you recoup, we clear, get your heart going, or whatever it is, you do the Heimlich, and you can breathe again, whatever it is, and then you move on. And you notice, right? Like if you've ever not been able to breathe and you're kind of panicking, turning blue, and somebody does a Heimlich on you, or you can just imagine this because I'm sure you've had something like it in any case, right? And they do the Heimlich and you pop up that piece of food you ate too fast or whatever like that, and you can breathe again. You see how fast you go right back to normal? I mean, how fast? And within seconds, you're going, oh, yeah, okay. It's like, okay, let me take another bite. Maybe you chew a little bit more this time, okay? But here you go, right back to normal, right? See, because that's where you live your life. In any case, so back to reality-ish. Okay, so now, so take a look where your life is. See, it's in that whole I have a life thing. I have a history, I have a future, I have a career, I have a whatever it is, you know. I'm making my way through life, you know, for good, better or worse. I can improve my life, or my life's going well, whatever it is. You see, that's my life. Where does it all exist? That's all a social thing. That's all a human invention, okay? The fact that you breathe and eat. I mean, even eating, come on. You could eat gruel every night. I don't even know what gruel is, okay? But it doesn't sound good, okay? But in any case, you could eat gruel every night and stay alive. See? Probably, you know, fine. Or whatever, you know. You could eat. But is that what you do? No. You eat all kinds of fancy stuff. And then you got to change it up because, you know, hey, I had steak last night, you know, or, oh, no, I had potato, I had whatever it is, you know. I had yogurt last night, whatever, I don't know, whatever you eat, you know, tofu, you know, and I need a change of pace, or I need to and oh, this tastes better and that tastes better. What's all that about? It's not about staying alive. That's about you and pleasure and, you know, entertaining yourself and pleasuring yourself and, you know, feeling good about stuff and all that, right? I mean, come on. I mean, there's huge amounts of stuff around eating. Most of it, the vast majority of stuff around eating has nothing to do with actually nutrition, you know, and just keeping you alive. That you can handle simply, quite easily, and in a very boring way. So in any case, I'm just pointing these things out, right? You know, it's like think about, I'm trying to get to the thing about why I'm saying social context. Okay, I'm just trying to, you know, lay that out. I know I'm going down different roads here. But, you know, it's like, say, wine tasting. You ever been wine tasting? Yeah. See, okay, maybe not, right? Or drinking coffee. You ever drink coffee at a cafe? What's that all about? See, you know, what's that about? Come on. Let's get honest. You know, what's that about is a drug, okay? You're going to a drug. If you go to an opium den, you're not snooty about it. You know what I'm saying? I suspect. I've never been to an opium den. Maybe they are. I don't know. But, you know, I'm just saying. No, you acknowledge that you're going there for the drug. I'm going for opium because I want to knock myself the fuck out. You know, I want to go into this other world. You do the same thing with wine. You do the same thing with coffee. You do the same thing with, you know, whatever. But there's a whole culture around it, isn't there? When you go wine tasting, you know, you got to sip it. You got to say, oh, look at this. And, oh, it has this bouquet. And it's got, oh, it's like little raspberry and some earth behind it and some vanilla and some oak barrel and some pepper. And, you know, you go into all this crap, you know, that most of which you have no real idea. You're just kind of faking it. And so, okay, you're trying to join the club, you know, that makes these kinds of distinctions. So you feel part of the club. What is the club? Social. All right? Did you get it? It's all a social thing. You know what I'm saying? The wine is just wine, and most of the time it sucks. Come on, admit it. I mean, come on, really, seriously. You know, I was in where was I? New Zealand, right? And this guy who owned the vineyards down there, Japanese man, you know, we went out, so, you know, wine tasting to different places, you know, besides his, you know, vineyard. And we were in this one place, and we were, you know, drinking some wine and, you know, tasting some wine. And the girl behind the counter said, you know, what do you think about this? And I said, well, it's okay. It's kind of mediocre. It's all right. It's not that bad. And that's a compliment for me. And she said, well, you know, how much would you pay for this? Now, to set the stage, they were charging like $75 a bottle. you know? And I said, oh, about, $7 to $10. She was shocked. She was stunned. And my Japanese friend just laughed out loud. He thought that was the funniest thing because nobody ever says something like that, which is to say nobody's ever honest in that world. They're always pretending something for the most part, right? Or they're snooty about shit or whatever, See, it's always this kind of affectation of some sort in the world. And he was so tickled by the fact that I would just be straight with this person. Now, I do want to acknowledge that when I said $7 to $10, I was thinking US dollars. Okay. And they were New Zealand dollars. So I'd have to up that to maybe, $13, $15. Okay. I'd have to make a correction. Okay. All right. Okay. My bad. So in any case, you can see how this whole world, right, comes about. See, like the whole world of coffee and cappuccinos and frappe-oles and coffee-oles and espresso and, all like whatever. Yeah, there are different forms of coffee to get you high. And, you want to get high is do the espresso. It's like a shampoo. Give me a double espresso. I got no time here. See, and then we learned the taste. Do you remember, like, when you were a child, maybe, I don't know, maybe I did anyway, and you first tasted coffee, you didn't like it. You're like, oh, God, this is kind of bitter or something. It's like, doesn't taste good, See, but then over time it grows on you, especially if you like the high. Say, oh, this does something for me, Anyway, so in any case, you see, all of that is culture. It is not, it's our social conventions. It's stuff we're inventing between us that make a world. So you're kind of getting an idea here? I'm just using these silly little examples, you see. We create a world in which we live, and, that's what's important to us, you see. And we kind of miss the simple truth of the matter, or just the fact of the matter, not to make it any big deal. In any case, so now imagine your whole life like that. Yeah? Very little to do with the biology, physiology of your life. Yeah, sure, that's there. There's that. That's there. Okay? But mostly your life. Like, say you get cancer. Now, you get cancer, first you might be like, upset and scared shitless, right? Because, oh, I got cancer, I'm going to die, right? All right. Now, what do you start relating to? Okay, what are you going to lose? I mean, obviously, you're going to lose your body. Your body's going to go through some shit. Yeah, and you figure, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through that, right? Well, all right, but remember, it's your body's going through it, not you. In any case, so, okay, all right. So, and then, of course, what do you get some sympathy from people, and people come around. They say, oh, my God, this is terrible. And you go, oh, yeah, my life's going to end. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, my dreams for the future. Oh, my God. But what is all that about? Social. You see, it's linked to the physiology, right? And the disease, because, it's what's going to end it all for you. See, but all your concerns and the life that's going to come to end, this is a social thing. See? I'm not going to be able to relate to my family anymore. I'm not going to be able to, whatever, drink wine anymore. I'm not going to be able, I'm going to die. All right. So we're starting to get a little sense of what I'm talking about, like how the immense amount of our experience is a social matter. It's a social self. It's actually invented by people. Like, how much of your life do you live in your mind? And when you live a lot, right? I mean, come on, a lot. And how much of what's going on in your mind is in a form of language, right? A lot, again, right? If not language, then imagery and stories, yeah, of some kind, little movies, whatever. See, and what's all that about? What's the language about? So language is only created because of sentient self and other. So if there is no other, there is no, conscious entity that we think we are, and conscious entities we think others are, there's no language, because there's nobody to communicate with. or two. You follow? It's an invention. We invented that. See, now here's what we miss. We also invented the sentient self. That whole world of sentience is something we invented. Oh, Ralston, you're going too far now. Yeah. But what the hell? I've been known to do it before. So, what am I working? Oh yeah, religion. So, so let's get back to that. So then you have this like social context of life and everything like that. And so what do we toss into the mix? Well, let's take some religions and toss in the mix life after death. Now, think about it. Really, seriously, think about it. Life after death. Isn't that the stupidest thing you've ever heard? Okay, not the stupidest thing you've ever heard. There's some pretty stupid things out there. But in any case, think about it. Life after death isn't death. It's life. You understand? You're saying life after life. In other words, when my life ends, I want another one. I want to continue my life in a different form. That's not death. That's more life. I go to heaven, right? I get reincarnated. Whatever. That's more you. Because that's the important thing, isn't it? See? And, you've probably heard me say that your whole world is based on self-survival. All right. So you're getting a little bit more of a hit here. Okay. A little bit. See? Self-survival. You're so committed, and we're all so committed to self and self-survival that we have to invent worlds where we continue to survive even after we die. Huh. Interesting. And then you feel better, of course. You're going to feel better if you can somehow survive death. Shit, that's a biggie. I'm not going to die. I'm going to survive this. I'm going to go through some changes, for sure. Okay? I'm going to go to heaven, not really sure what that's about. Although, I've got an image of walking around in clouds with other angels and shit. Or I'm going to go to hell, but at least I'm still alive. Even in hell, I might suffer, but fuck it, I suffer now, so... I'll walk around and fire and brimstone, whatever, I don't know. See, whatever image you've got, I'm still going to survive in some fashion. I'll be reincarnated. No, you're inventing something now. Okay, I'll be reincarnated. And say, okay, as what? I don't know. Maybe a sheep. I'll come back as a sheep. No, I'll come back as an eagle. Right, that's it. Whatever, I don't know. Or you come back as another person. Who is this other person? You have no idea, but at least you continue. And that's the important thing. That's the important thing. Have you ever noticed when people talk about past lives? I mean, come on, I'm from California. Okay. and I go way back. So, the idea of past lives and that kind of whole fantasies has come up. And, people talk about past lives, and you ever notice they never come up with a really mundane, stupid past life? They're always a prince or princess, a warrior, something. There's always something interesting in their past life. Why? Well, okay, you know why. Come on. You know why. Anyway. But come on. I mean, if past lives were real, how often would you have been a prince or princess or some such thing? Huh? Every time? Come on. Or is that just the only one you remember because you're so traumatized by every other one? You blocked them out, when you were like an untouchable in India, or when you were like, I don't know, a cobbler fixing shoes. Or it's like a sewage management person in a bad Turkish sewage. You don't remember those past lives, do you? So, any case, so back to religion. So you can see. In any case, so we make up all kinds of stuff. And, religions don't help us get to the truth. They just help us survive. They just give us a world in which what we're doing, we're going to continue to do, or we can do in a higher way. We can do in a more dignified, uplifting. I am a soul. I am a higher self. I am an eternal entity, kind of thing, right? And that, it feels better. Yeah, gives your life a little dignity. I understand that, and that's fine. Give your life a little dignity. But then, to ask, why do you need that? Why do you need a belief system that dignifies your life? That makes you that lifts you up, that gives you the hope of continuing to survive. Why do you need that? What's true? Well, because then we get back to otherwise, my life sucks. Otherwise, my life is just mundane. I mean, I'm just going through the motions and breathing and doing stuff and stuff, and then dying. It's like, what? This is mundane. That's not useful to me, and I don't look good in this. I don't see where the purpose of my life is. All right, and so you desperately cling to some kind of belief system in order to find purpose. All right. I want to invite you to consider you can create purpose without that. Just FYI. You can create purpose if you want. To dedicate your life to some purpose you find worthy, and you'll feel better. It doesn't have to be a religion. You have to believe in stuff. Just create it. Invent it. Well, invent it? No. Okay. Anyway. See, but other than that, I understand the problem. But like I said in the beginning, religion is a failure to be directly conscious of what's true. Because if you're directly conscious of what's true, you don't need a belief system, do you? See? You don't need to make up all kinds of stuff. See, and so my invitation is for you to be directly conscious of what's true. Is your life mundane? Is your life special? How about neither? How about your life is what it is and you don't know what that is? Okay? I mean, that's a place to start, isn't it? And then what is it? What is life? What am I? What is existence? And then what is existence even beyond myself? See, those are questions worth asking and becoming conscious of. Then perhaps you can die peacefully. Because you're not losing anything. But I don't want to give away the store. That would be a religion. You see? So in any case, you see that, when people make stuff into enchanted force, like special shrines, and you burn incense and you go through these motions, and it's like, the divine is here and there and blah, blah, blah. What good does that do? I mean, the best it does, I guess, is to keep people feeling good about themselves, feeling good, like, oh, maybe I have some link to the divine because I'm in this place, I'm in this temple or this, whatever you call it, church, whatever it is, All right. See? And then, of course, you have to make that up. You do have to make that up. Come on. Because it's just a building. It's just a structure. It's just a place. And incense is just the smell. Or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing special about any of it. See? And it kind of distracts you from asking the question, what is it? What is place? What is object? What is self? What is social? See, asking the real questions instead of asking these, or believing in these kind of fantasies. All right? So, of course, you become fascinated by some nicely formed fantasy, it's like, whoa, look at this world. This is great, okay. But your fascination is just your fascination. It's not the truth. And some point you have to get over your fascination. And just ask what's true. See? And if you need, like a motive, people say, well, what? I don't know. How am I motivated? What am I going to do? It's because it's what's true, See? And if you can, just asking the questions for real not only grounds you, but if you need, it gives you purpose. You see what I'm saying? See? It gives your life dignity, if you like. If you need dignity, if you need purpose, ask the real questions. Okay? Grounded. Real questions. At least then you can consider yourself to be, a seeker after truth or something. And you can consider yourself, I'm actually contemplating these matters. I'm looking into these matters. See? Okay, good. Good for you. All right? And that gives what you need, as far as motivation and dignity and whatever else stuff you need, Or you can get past all the ideals and simply grasp being, You don't need the ideals. But whatever blows your skirt up, all right? So in any case, I am not going to form a religion. And when I die, if anybody forms a religion around me, shoot them. All right? Put an end to it. Nip it in the bud. All right? I don't mind if people use my work. This is why I'm putting it on paper and stuff, but, for their own purpose, for their own consciousness. And that's the point. You becoming conscious, and you becoming conscious beyond you. Okay? That's the point. Not to believe in stuff. All right? So I won't do that. Unless I get tired of being poor and want to get rich, huh? But I think it's a little late now. All right? In any case, that's the answer to that question, why I won't form a religion. We good? All right. Thank you, and good night.